The edge gun section is going to be super important this year in Fantasy 2023. The question you're going to ask yourself is, are you going to pick up a top gun in this position? Are you going to pick mid-rangers? Are you going to go cheapies? Are you going to pick a dual position guy that can switch between both? There are a few of them, but not as many as previous years. We started off with Isaiah Papali'i, who was a dual position guy last year and was a must-have by the end of the year. If you look at the footystatistics.com, it had him as a 97% owned player by season end from top 100 and also the top 1,000. So he's someone that I definitely think is going to be important at some stage of the season. Do you have enough space in your cap to pick him up now? At 886, he moves to the Tigers, averaged 62 last year. And if you look at the next highest average guy in this position, it is Angus Crichton at 52.9. So if you're looking at that, you're like, wow, is it super important to get him straight away? Or do we think that we can find some value elsewhere? Or do we think that he can actually keep up with that price point? Pros for him, he's super durable. The last couple of years, he's played almost every game. Had an amazing 2 years, obviously, from that with the Eels. So he moves to the Tigers there, right? Clearly, the best edge will be a must-have at some point. He definitely will be. The cons are obviously the super expensive price tag, given he averaged a 62 last year. He's in a new team, so can he keep that up? Will he get as many scoring opportunities as he did last year? Obviously, running the ball, tackling, if he's playing 80 minutes on an edge there, whether it's the left or the right. They do have John Bateman there, who's going to be a big minute edge as well. So will either of these guys be able to get the 80 minutes? You've got guys like Joel Fangawi and David Clemmer, who are also big minute middle forwards. So do they have the space for any of these guys to play 80? They're all small questions that we need to ask ourselves if we're looking to pick up Isaiah Papali'i early on in the season, even round 1 there. Another big important thing is he does have a late buy in round 14. So with the edge guns, guys, we have 11 to pick from. I'll go through my top 5, and then I have a clear top value guy in this section, which I know a bunch of you guys will probably guess, and he will be in my side come round 1, I'm pretty sure. So number 2, one of our 2 Roosters guys in this video, Angus Crichton. He's coming in at 798, an average of 52.9, but unfortunately, if you look at what he's priced at, unfortunately, it is 27k more than where Sean Lane is for only a 0.3 difference in average. So they've priced Crichton up for those 3 games, I believe, that he played off the interchange in the first, round 3, 4, 5 or 2, 3, 4, and they've priced him up according to those lower minute games where he obviously averaged, in mid to late 20s there. So he still has plenty of upside for sure. First try he scored was in round 19 last year. So you can put that down to a few things. Do you think that he's going to score more tries this year? Has he really dropped off a cliff? Or is he going to be completely fine? And it was just the Roosters having a lot of issues with injuries and bits and pieces like that, not playing their best, and him not getting enough ball on that left side. Because I definitely think that the amount of ball he was getting was much lower. He was used as a decoy a fair bit. His meters gain was much lower. And you see this is his lowest average in many years. But the good thing is he has plenty of skill. He has plenty of attacking prowess and plenty of upside in him here. So he's definitely someone that is on my radar for sure. The cons for Crichton is that obviously he had an average season. He didn't really look himself. You look at him with 30 tackles there. It's not something we want in a guy that's priced at almost 800k and priced at 54.5, 55 average there. You want them to have that base, that clear base of tackles somewhere in the 35 to 40 range, which we'll speak about with a few other guys. We look at guys like Papali'i, and he has that awesome base of around, that high 40s to 50, whereas Crichton's base is sitting in the high 30s when you take away those 2.2 missed tackles a game there. So if I talk about a base here, guys, which I will with a few of the next guys, it is the tackles plus the run meters minus the missed tackles at 2 per miss. So 30 tackles for 2.2 misses. You're only getting 25.5 points there in tackles per game. So it's a little bit of a worry to go along with his lower meters gain of just over 100. Does he bounce back? That is the big question on our lips with Angus Crichton there. And let me know what your thoughts are around him, because he's a very interesting player in this section. Are a bunch of these guys. We've got Sean Lane, Hudson Young, Dave Fafita, and guys like Nat Butcher, etc. to talk about, who I think have a lot of interest from players. Sean Lane comes in at number 3 in terms of price point, along with Hudson Young and also Dave Fafita. For average of 52.6 last year. So obviously did really, really well. This is his best season by far, and he's found a home at the Eels and has improved out of sight. So big thing here is the pro, he averaged 59 from round 11. So the first 8 rounds that he played, he was solid. He did average 41, so it wasn't anything crazy. And then from there, he averaged at 59. So if you think that he can continue that play, because it even went on into the final series, where he had an incredible final series, getting them all the way to the grand final. He was spectacular against the Cowboys there in that semi-final. And it's the left side, strong side. Dylan Brown's getting a lot better. The main issue I see for them is how Josh Hodgson gets, acclimatized into this side. Does he come out great? He is experienced. I think they'll be able to play both sides really well like they did with Reed. So that's probably the only real change on that left side. They've got plenty of attacking prowess down there, and I think Lane can still do really well on that side. How much of a bump we could see from him? I'd seeing something around the 55 mark would seem conservative. There's a little bit of a risk for him to go at like a 50 average, and also a chance for him to go closer to the 60 mark. So cons for him, obviously inconsistent. He had a pretty low start to the year, and then was up and down a little bit, but had a bunch of games where he scored tries and did a lot of work with the try assists, etc., and tackle breaks, and that got him into the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then he had plenty of scores in the 30s to 40s as well, and he has only done it for one season. So plenty to think about with Shawnee Lane. Hudson Young there with the Raiders came into his own last year and had a cracking year, priced at 771, average of 52.2. His pros, obviously really improving as a player. Last year was his best year by far, and I think he can at least continue that and potentially get a little bit better. Very safe position for 80 minutes. He was also very consistent in that sense that he played almost every game and almost 80 minutes in all of those games. So this is a very true average for him there. Can he keep up this 80 minutes, the safe position, the improving? Can he keep it up, and can he make that leap to the 55 plus? I think there's definitely a chance, but I have reservations, and those are that the fact that he scored 13 tries last year is really, really high. You can expect probably an 8 to a 12 from him this year. 13 is pretty crazy. Now that he's really established himself as a superstar edge in this game, yes, the Raiders are improving. That is a tick, but game plans are going to be made for him. Second year syndrome is a thing when someone pops, and that could be similar to Sean Lane. We can make that argument. But Hudson Young, superstar player, very different to how Sean Lane does it, but 13 tries in that amount of time is, I'm putting as a con, as much as you think is a great thing. It is, but can he keep that up? The 30 tackles and 3 misses, so he's only getting 24 from tackles per game. That base is just not low enough. It's not high enough, sorry, for me to think that he can average 55 plus. David Fafita with the Titans on the edge again, averaging 771k and averaging 52.4. The pros, Kieran Foran, you have to say it. Will he be on his side? I'm not exactly sure. Fafita moved from the left to the right. Fermor did really great the left at the start of the year. So who knows? We'll find out through the trials. But I think Kieran Foran can really get him a lot more ball. And that's all we need. Fafita's had so many games over the last bunch of years where he just hasn't been given enough pellet. And he hasn't been able to run super well. Basically, he'll have a few games and a few runs per game that he will run crazy. He'll get a bunch of tackle breaks, he'll score a try, and this is why his average was still 52.4. And most people say he didn't play very well last year, so he clearly has a 60 average in him. Are people going to jump on him from the start? I think they will. Only issues I see with him is that he has the bye round in number 5, unfortunately. Very inconsistent and no real set role. Last year he came off the bench, he played 50 minutes, he played 45, he played 60, he played 80. Plenty of different minutes, roles, and different game plans for Fafita. Will he be able to get a game plan that suits him and him getting plenty of ball, really? That's what we're looking for with Dave, because he has that captaincy option with upside for sure. Bo Fermor, his partner in crime, they average very similarly, and I see a lot more upside in Fafita, and you're only paying an extra 32k. Love for Fermor as a player, obviously really, really consistent, runs a great line, so did score a bunch of tries last year. He scored 11, and I actually see that as a little bit of a con as well, because you'd expect somewhere between that 8 to 10 for a player like Bo. Unless the team really improves, I just can't see it happening. But he was such a focal point in attack last year, even more than Fafita was for majority of the year. So can we see an improvement from him? I'm not exactly sure. If you do plug him in, you could plug him in all year, to be honest with you. They do have the buy in round 5 as well, which is a slight issue, but he shouldn't be playing Origin. And I think, very, very durable, very consistent. You could plug him in for the entire year and he's not going to do you wrong. I can't see him averaging under 50, but I can't see him getting up above that 55, unfortunately. So a little bit different to what I spoke about with Hudson Young. 37 in the base there. That includes the missed tackles and stuff. So fairly consistent that way. And if you can get some attacking upside in tackle breaks and offloads, and obviously tries, assists, and the like, he should be able to score pretty well. But yeah, a slight worry that, with so many tries, he still wasn't able to average a mid-50s there. All right, Olakawatu. So with the Manly boys, they have an early bye, I believe round 3 for them, and a 731k averaging 51. I'm struggling to see a lot of upside. 32 base for him, so he's really relying on a lot of attacking stats year in, year out. That 10 tries as well. I just see him as being fairly inconsistent if you look at his scores. And the pros for him, obviously, so there's a big one. There's some big ones. He's improving as a player. He's an absolute beast, unstoppable close to the line. Super upside like that. But the inconsistency, the bunch of scores in the 30s, and then, very rarely having a really big score, which is what we need with these types of guys. If you can get the 80s, 90s, 100s with a bunch of tries, and then have that high 30s game with the base, then it's going to be fine. But he just doesn't really hit the heights. If he's scoring tries, he's not getting the base stats, for example. So that's that. And I just think Turbo will be fit, hopefully. This is obviously pretty early in the preseason. We'll see how he goes overseas, but I think he'll be back, and that's only going to help Manly stocks, which gets them more opportunities at him scoring and crashing over the line, especially. Keon Koloamatangi, I see him as a very similar player to Olakau'atu above. Just in terms of the attacking prowess, they're very, very good close to the line. He's obviously in a better team than what Olakau'atu, is playing in with Manly. But I just don't see the upside for him. You're looking at 29 tackles as okay. But again, there's a few of these guys that have, like the one below, get a lot more tackles and a lot better base. And you can see why they average in the mid-50s when they get their opportunity. So 29 tackles only for him with a couple of misses. And we're seeing too many high 30s and low 40s scores from him without that big upside, unfortunately. You're looking at scores, only 1 or 2 scores above that 60 to 70 mark, which is, above that 70 mark, which is not what we need. Okay, 3 guys to go, and then we'll show you my best guns and value of this position. We got Nat Butcher here at 691k, an average of 45.5. So this is obviously, he has been priced up just a little bit, a couple of points there to 47.5. But there is a reason for that. He had plenty of games off the interchange bench last year, plenty of games with lower minutes. But what happens here is you see him get a 56 average when he gets over that 60 minutes. So at the start of the year, we see Sitili Tupanua, who's going to be out for looks like a couple of months there to start the season. So that means he gets an opportunity on that right edge there to play over 60 minutes at least. There's games in there that are 66 minutes and stuff. But if he can get anywhere near 80, he's going to be averaging over 55. And when you're pricing him at 47.5, there's at least 7 to 8 points of value with potential upside. Main issue for him there is the fact that he's got a bye in round 4, and obviously Sitili is coming back. So if you can use him as a guy that can average mid-50s, make you 100k, and then move him on, if that's what happens, if Sitili comes back, or you may come off the bench and we can work out what we're doing with Butcher or Crichton or these types of guys. I think he's an absolute steal of a player here who is the dual position guy of this group. It's him and Barnett that I can see at that slightly under 700 price point can really do some damage in NRL Fantasy this year. And I'm tipping both of them to have their moments this season, most likely and hopefully at the start of the season, which can get most people off to a great start. It might mean you don't have to spend up crazy in other positions, and it's a strategy in this position, and it's a strategy I'm looking to use at this point of the season. Now that I've done the mids and also the edge, we'll obviously wait to see what kind of mid-rangers and cheapies come up, but it's a strategy I'm looking to use right now. Butcher averaging 40 tackles a game when he does play over 60 minutes is massive. You don't have to worry too much about the attacking prowess, which he can show. He did have a 4-try game last year, so he can do it. But if you're averaging 40 tackles and 90 meters, there's 49 in base. Take off a couple of missed tackles, 45 overall. All you need is a little bit of attacking stats in tackle breaks and offloads and a potential try or two here and there, and you're at a 55 to 60 average. So I see plenty of upside with Butcher, close to that 8 to 10 points of value, which is going to be great. He turns into a keeper, and hopefully all year. But if not, you can move him on closer to those buys or when Sitili comes back, which would be unfortunate, but it is how it is. Dyson Frizzell there at 673, averages 47.1 last year, was his lowest in the last 3 years by 6 points. So a 53 and a 56 there. You saw 56 in 2020 and 2020 and 53 the year before that. So one of those being the COVID affected year, which showed a much speedier game, plenty more tackles for him and stuff like that. But he didn't really have a great year last year. Another pro for him was he'll be running off Hastings off his right shoulder there, which is going to be great for Frizzell. I can see plenty more run meters for him. Obviously Hastings likes to run as well, but that ability for Hastings to run is going to open up some opportunities for Frizzell to score tries and just get tackle breaks and some big meters there, getting one-on-one tackles and and really pushing forward an extra 2 to 5 meters each time. So I can see Frizzell as having definitely an opportunity to do pretty well. The cons for him, obviously inconsistent last year and just didn't really have a good year at all, averaging 47. So if you're picking him up, you're looking to get him for the entire year and that he averages over 50. So with him not playing Origin, that is a tick for sure. He is getting older though, and it would be a risky pick, but I think it could definitely work. So if he's someone of interest for you in a Knights team that may improve a little bit with Hastings, hopefully Ponga playing a lot better, then he's definitely an option. And the last one here, guys, is Jeremiah Nanai. 645k, so that's the positive with him, is that he's at the low end of these potential keepers, average 45.1. So the pros for him, obviously young and improving game to game. You can see that across the last year in a really, really good team, obviously in the Cowboys, my squad right here, that have been doing great last year, and I can continue to do that this year, I think, with him improving and a bunch of the other young guns doing really good work in Robson, obviously Cotter and Townsend running around the park with Dearden. I'm seeing a 50 average max, to be honest with you. He just has too many demerits, which I'll speak about in a sec. I think he'd just be fairly frustrating. Having some low games, having some high games in there, the inconsistency could kill you if you do have him in your side. So definitely relying on talent with the amount of tries that he scored. He has a pretty low base and 3.5 missed tackles a game. So if he shows to the world that he can clean up those missed tackles, he can increase that base a little bit. And not fall off as many tackles, I think he's going to do a great job, and he could average 50. He will play Origin. He will be inconsistent. So there's other guys on this list that I think you can pick in the Barnetts, the Butchers, and these types of players in your side, and can rest a little bit easier, go to sleep a bit nicer, and have a good night's sleep, as I'm saying there. So they're the 11 guys, and I'll speak for the guns now. I think Papali'i is very, very clearly on top. If he can average anywhere near that 62, he's going to be a gold mine, unless you can get guys like Fafita, Lane Crichton, or Hudson Young to average somewhere near that. Then he's going to be the clear guy to pick, and you're getting that 5 to 10 points of extra, 5% extra points on top of other players, right? So if they can't find the value elsewhere, then you win with Papali'i there in your side. Fafita has the most upside, and he's done it before. Sean Lane's his first year doing it, but I think he's going to have a really good season, unless there's some weird drop off and it was just first year of him absolutely killing it, and then he just completely drops off. I don't see it. Angus Crichton, I think, can really bounce back. He is a little bit undervalued for sure. And Hudson Young is a great young player on the rise there, and they have a fair bit of time before their first buy as well. And the value pick is clearly Butcher. I spoke about Barnett in the mids video. They both got good value, and you can pick either one of them. I think you'll do really well. Barnett probably has more of a safer role for the entire year, but I think Butcher could probably score a little bit better. So completely up to you on that one. I'm super high on that, obviously, and I think he's the only value guy clearly in this bunch, with a few guys having potential for 2 to 5 points, I would say. Hope you enjoyed that video, guys, and I can't wait to show you the halves, the centers, and also the wing fullbacks.